What's going on, guys? So today we're going to do something a little different. Jakazin put out a video, make shielders great again. He is a R99 creator who puts out tons of videos. I cannot beat this guy. This dude is putting out videos, bro, and he has so much stuff. So please sub up to his channel. Please support the guy. He's a good friend in the R99 space. We have talked many times before, but he is talking about a topic of make shielders great again. This is something that is constantly talked about on my channel and on my live streams. This is something that a lot of people, you know, have dabbled in the conversation with before in my channel, because when it comes to healers or shielders, it just seems that using a healer is way better than using a shielder, regardless of the shielder character. And you know me, guys, I will advocate for shielders, especially Ezra, but Ezra's not here in global, and I believe Jakazin is taking it from a global approach probably as much as he can, because including Ezra, including other characters, doesn't really help, you know, because that's not what we have here. But let's see.
Hello guys, welcome back. So today I wanted to talk about a specific topic. I wanted to talk about shielders, because I have a problem with shielders and I don't like how they're being treated in the game, and I would like for them to improve, because I want to use the shielder. I want to be hyped for shield characters, and shielding should be as equal value as the other roles, okay? As a healer, for example. Now, what is the problem? Before we address the problem, I'm gonna tell you what happened to me and made me realize that I'm gonna do that because I feel like you guys are already molding.
Yeah, he's talking about his stamina.
Stamina's capped.
People do the same thing to me.
I'm gonna do that while I talk, okay? So, basically, what happened to me was I was playing the game, right, and I was doing Limbo 6 or something. It was something hard, right, where you need to survive. The survival is a topic in the fight, okay? So it was either Limbo. I'm pretty sure it was Limbo because it was before Maze Bulletin. So it was Limbo something 5 or 6, and I decided to go, you know what? I have a new Babel. I'm gonna use her. Right? I used New Babel, and at that point, I realized something. Right? I was playing New Babel, and I was like, wait. I do the ult. She gets the taunt. Yeah, sure. She riposte. Do the riposte every time. She does a little bit of damage. Cool. Also, if you wanna play with 37, right? You're gonna some of you maybe play New Babel. So she's gonna kill herself because the shield doesn't last long enough. It's
all right. Now this is where I have to interject. Good old Jakazin. You as a content creator, you're under a magnifying glass. You're under the radar every time you put up a character. Now, people who are new Babel lovers, people who are, you know, gonna counter you on this, they're gonna look at your character and be like, well, of course she can't survive. You have an Insight 2 level 50 res 6 that's probably not even built properly, and you don't even have a Psych Cube on her. So they're gonna tear you apart in the comment section and be like, bro, of course your Babel doesn't survive, dog. Like, and then someone's gonna be like, my Babel survives just fine because I have her properly built, right? That's just what's gonna happen to you as a content creator. Now, what I will say is that Miss New Babel is a very strange case in the sense that she has a shield, she does the taunt, she does the counter, but she scales with reality defense only, which is kind of terrible because there's not only reality defense characters, and there's not even a way with the Psych Cube or anything, except for one 5-star Psych Cube, that you can buff her reality defense very high to be able to give her large shields. A lot of people are like, but it lasts 2 rounds, but it's not that large. Now, I am a CN player as well, so is Jakazin. And like I said, he's probably not trying to include CN accounts, but Yenny and Ezra both scale off of HP, and this allows you to easily make those shields very large, because you also have a Psych Cube beyond Wonderland that honestly works for the both of them, and it allows them to increase the size of their shields. But then the thing is right, a 6-star Psy Cube just made for Babel that gives a lot of reality defense sounds kind of silly, right? So unless they put out another character in the future that goes off of reality defense that could help out those characters like Balloon Party, like Babel, that scale off of reality defense, like those characters are going to fall off eventually because like it's just a weird thing to scale. And you gotta, I mean, with the shielders, you gotta put in resources into them, like, because that is how they live. That is how they are able to do any damage. Like, I mean, you gotta have them insight 3, like and that's where she gets extra defenses from too. And you gotta have it R10. But anyways,
it's very tiny. Doesn't heal you when it breaks. So when you do the shield and you taunt and everybody's attacking you, you are going to die.
Yep.
Especially if it's like hard content.
Especially if it's a mediocre invested new Babel.
There's no in between. Besides,
not to slander you, Jaka, but it is a mediocre invested Babel.
Apart from the fact that maybe there's like one stage that heals you in some weird way. Like that guy that soloed. Don't come here in the comments and type like extremely niche scenarios of people
I know what he's talking about.
Out Babel in a stage that heals you when you riposte or some shit.
Yeah, this is again a interesting thing that happens. You'll talk about a character, especially when you're making a video, and then there'll be that one person be like, "Oh, well, in Utu with this stage with these cards, my Babel was able to self-heal herself." Okay, but that's not what she does. That's not what the character does. We're talking about general content. We're making a debate. Don't get personal about it. Let's just discuss the character.
And then, but that guy did it. Skill issue,
yeah.
Right? Like, think about it. I'm talking about
exactly
an
what he's talking about.
Topic, okay? No bullshit. Like, don't try to excuse it. If you have a counter argument, of course, typing in the comment. But in my opinion, I will explain. I feel that the shielders don't have the same power as the healers, and I feel like these two should be two types of playing. You want to heal in this match, or you want to shield, right? So it needs to be an equal footing when it comes to healing or shielding. You can make the healing superior and the shielding dog shit. The shielding needs to be equal as the healing, so when you have a shielder character, you go like, oh, okay, I feel like shielding now. Or maybe the first healer is occupied in first limbo.
Now, I will add to what he is saying. And I'll use my CN account to help explain my point. Let me talk this out first. Healing and shielding are two different things and two different types of sustain in a way. To his point, yes, I do agree. Healing and shielding should be equal. But I do also see some problems in that because it depends on the shielder, depends on how the scaling of it is. Because, like, I mean, if you shield correctly, you'll literally not take any damage. But that's a different topic. Shielding is a more proactive type of sustain, and healing is a reactive type of thing, right? You shield before you take damage and you heal after you take damage. Depending on the type of player that you are, it really depends on like how you'll be able to go about it. Like, it's so much easier in your head to be like, okay, my health is low, let's heal. Versus if you're doing content and you're like, all right, I know a large attack is about to happen because I've been fighting this boss or I know these enemies. Let's go ahead and shield ourselves from taking a lot of damage, right? So the game isn't really set up like that right now, but it does seem like in the future they are kind of moving to be able to give you some more information. So I have this pulled up because I knew I was going to use this. So in CN right now, they have this timeline of the boss's moves that are going to happen. We do not have this in global. This is something that comes in CN, and this helps you in being able to know what's coming up to where you can just actively shield, right? That's just, a way to help shielders kind of have a little bit of, presence and this stuff. And like, right, this is a 4-man content, so that's a whole nother thing. But like, if you know a boss or enemies are about to hit you, you can put up a shield, do your attacks, do whatever, and you should be fine. Especially if you have like a buffer of support that minimizes, the damage you take by like damage reduction and stuff like that. Then with the shield, you don't take as much damage, right? This will allow you to survive. Now, what are you saying about solo sustain? On solo sustain, this is going to be a little bit difficult. Like, that, and I'll wait till he talks and talk about the solo sustain afterwards. But this is like, the only way that shielding can get better is if they do the timeline, they let us know what's happening. We can buff because like we have warnings and everything of what's coming up and we know what to shield.
The team and limbo, and on the second team you go, okay, I don't have a healer, or maybe I don't want to use this healer because this is a different Flatus, so I'm going to use the shielder now because I have it and it's viable. That's good. So the problem is that it's not that like that. It's not like that. The shielders cannot be solo sustain. This is my take. Shielders cannot be solo sustain. You will die. If you don't die, you the shielders, the other teammates are going to die because you can't heal. There's no way that you can heal. If you want to actually solo sustain with the shielder, they become incredibly AP hungry, so it makes no sense, right? You can't clear at that point because you only have 3 AP and you have 3 teammates. Now 4 AP. Now what are you gonna do? 50 shields? When are you going to attack? Also, you need to be RNG reliant to hope that you get a shield every turn, because the boss is not going to stay there and wait for you to attack and like chill, right? They're going to attack as well. They're going to do multiple attacks. They're going to do AoE. You know how obnoxious some bosses are. Like, what are you going to do? Just shield all the time? You're not going to clear, right? You're going to clear like round 19. Like in Limbo, if you want to get full stars, if you want to be competitive in the game requirements, if you actually want to do everything, you can't use a shielder as a solo sustain.
Now, to his point, yes, having to make sure that you get a shield every turn is crazy, is wild. It's not going to happen. You're going to waste tuning points trying to shuffle to make it happen. Shielders don't heal you. Well, besides Yini. But if we take Babel, for instance, all she can do is taunt and buff. So you got to have somebody who can heal her. Now, somebody think like, well, what about 6? Well, here's the thing about 6 too. 6 gives you a buff that gives you 10% of your health with Vitalize, but that only lasts like for 2 turns, and then you're going to have to spam the buff on 6 as well to help keep her alive. But also, like, Babel doesn't self-heal herself, so she's going to need a lot of healing, for herself. Ezra, as a pure shielder, not using Yini right now, Ezra can self-heal himself. He does take a lot of health, but he does self-heal himself, and it does a lot of healing for him. And he also has a thicker shield, but it doesn't last as long. So to Jaka's point, if you're getting attacked every turn, how do you go about this? And really the only solution is like, if you're going to use a shielder to sustain like Ezra, then you're going all out in DPS and you're ensuring that you can take out the units, or you're going to use some sort of control with it. Because, I mean, Ezra does boost damage way more than Babel would, but like, I mean, you gotta be putting out numbers for it to really be something for you, right? And I'll talk about in a sec, like Babel versus Ezra too.
I don't think it's possible if you take into account that you can't use all the cards every time because you're trying to also use the AP to DPS. So what are my solutions? Because I haven't come here just to wah shielder, wah do something.
Jaka's crying.
I didn't do that. I'm not here for that. I have solutions. My solutions are two. Mainly two, okay? First solution, make a side tube that actually
he still calls it
first
side
solution,
tube.
make a side tube that caters towards shielders.
Just call it a side
everybody
cube.
A shield every turn, like a tiny shield every turn, so you can mitigate passively without using AP. Second option could be either done on a side tube, or if that's too much to code or something. I don't know anything about coding. I don't know how hard that could be. if it can be done on a side tube, you can make it so when the shield, making a global mechanic, a new global mechanic for shielders, that now from now on, every shielder, when they have a shield and it gets broken on them and the allies, and they put the shield on, whoever gets the shield broken heals a percentage of their HP, right? So let's say 15%, 10%, 15%, 20% of their HP. Just as a global mechanic. Or you can do it, you can put it as a inside the side tube if it's easier. Maybe it's easier because it's just inside one thing instead of being like everybody.
15,
so everybody,
20%.
every shielder that uses the side tube and they apply some shields and they break, they heal also a little bit, right? You have to heal because the damage is too high and you don't have enough to mitigate. Or you just increase tremendously. Another solution. You increase the amount of shield tremendously on the allies instead of you. Like you get a normal one and the ally gets a big shield, and this big shield needs to last multiple turns. Let's say 2-3 turns every shield for every character. Every shielder that does it has to be like either 2 or 3 turns, so shielding lingering there for 2-3 turns.
But I get it.
And then it poofs unless broken, right? Now, I'm not saying to do all of these because maybe they would be broken at that point, or just choose one, right? I feel like that could be good. That could be good options. It would make those characters, those shielder like Ezra insane, would make new Babel pretty good, right? Now you don't die.
Yeah, he said Ezra because he knew
Ezra
was the top topic.
Or when you do the shield, it doesn't break as easy. You could make a character like Tenant relevant again. You could make all the shielders relevant. And I feel like that's good for the game because it opens a different approach of gameplay, a whole different way of playing. So, like, okay, Eureka playing or follow-up attack playing, extra attack playing. You can do like crits, you can do normal, you can do poison, you can do genesis damage, you can do shielding, you can do normal healing. That would make the game a little more, give the game a little more variety, right? And I feel like it would be fun overall. And again, I don't think the game is going to be ruined at all with this. It would only be a positive, in my opinion. So this video is just a rant. It won't reach anyone. So I will do.
It reached me.
I will post it, and maybe they see it.
I
saw
it.
I don't know. I don't have a way to contact Blue Pox. So I'm just gonna make a video. If you agree or disagree, let me know in the comments. Okay. So, yeah, that's it. It was just a rant. I feel like...
So, I appreciate Jakazin. This is why we're talking about it. This is what we are. So, to Jaka's point, shielders are lacking. And he is right. You do need to, in a way, heal. Now, I am going to do something here that a lot of people probably will roll their eyes at. And I'm going to bring up the differences between Babel and Ezra, because there's a huge difference between these characters. Okay. All right. So I have a Miss New Babel. Mine is literally the same residence as Jaka's, and it is in Site 3. So it's literally like, it's just like one extra push above Jaka's. You know, here's the thing. Babel is great when it comes to, like, you know, being able to do the counter follow-up, providing a little extra shield, but she doesn't up the team's damage and your DPS's damage for the case that she needs a healer to be with her, right? If you're doing 4-man content, you got to now include a healer for Babel to be put onto your team. I'll move myself back down here, right? Whereas Ezra, we know that Ezra gives crit damage, and we know that Ezra gives a shield, and Ezra also lowers the damage reduction that enemies have built up, right? And also has Genesis damage that he can crit whenever he wants, right? And scales off of health to have an insane amount. Let me see, actually move myself up. Like, this is, of course, a god Ezra. This is Ezra at his final form for most people. a fully maxed out one, right? So it is a very bad example. But what I'm saying is that this is, one of the full potentials of the character, right? And he has a lot of health, and he can scale all of this health, though, with his shield. And that was my reasoning to leveling him up as well. Like, if I'm going to have a shielder, then I obnoxiously put in way more resources than necessary, but I wanted to see how far I could push it, right? A lot of you know the story of the Ezra that I have on my account, but I just wanted to see how far could you push this. And I mean, the shields are massive. Like, and with the portrait, it also makes it higher. But even without the portrait, right? Without the portrait, that gave me the extra percentage here. It would be like I think it was like 15, 20, and 25, right? I mean, we're still looking at huge numbers, like all of this here. But like you're looking at resonance, right? The character was at 12,000 health with P0 R10 around level 30, right? We're around like 12k health. That 12k health is still fine, but like, if you really like the character and you want to invest into him, you can do that. But the main thing is that there's a side cube, or a side tube, as Jakazin says. There's a side cube that allows you to get that extra health because of its main stat in the health rate. And him and Yinny are the only like shielder type characters that can use it to be able to get a ridiculous amount of health, right? And this is like, I haven't even invested into Yinny, and she can go higher as well, right? So that's the thing, is like, you can't even really invest into Babel or Tenant like that to give them crazy amounts of sustain. And they don't really, like, and Babel doesn't really buff up the team's damage like what Ezra does, right? Yinny he didn't really talk about Yinny because Yinny heals. And so she's she's not in this shielding conversation, because she's a healer that can shield, which, is a whole different thing. Now, on his, and I know this video is getting probably long for some of you, but on his point about what shield should do, when it expires and heals, we talked about this on the channel. Now, he was saying like 15-20%. I think that's a little much, because of the strength of Ezra, right? It would mean that I'm gonna be honest, if I could shield and then my team, after the shield expires, could heal for 20% of their health, I'm no longer using another healer. Like, that's straight up. A lot of you know my gripes on Tooth Fairy already. If I had that much sustain off of Ezra, I'm never using Tooth Fairy. I'm never using Balloon Party. Ezra can get, like he said, Ezra would be insane if he had that. Ezra would be absolutely insane if he could heal from after he shields. That is a way too much, personally. Maybe doing a smaller amount based off of the shielder's max HP might be a little better, right? That way it would encourage somebody to invest, into the shielder a little bit more, give them max HP. Maybe we do like 5 or 10% here or there, something like that, from a side cube. Maybe it takes like 5 or 10% of the caster's HP and spreads it out to everybody, right? And it's like a max HP one. That sounds a lot better, right? We could work on something like that, like 5 to 10% max HP, and then it heals the team like passively per turn, and it has a max HP stat just like Beyond Wonderland, and then that's fair, right? I think that's fair. And it'll be like a passive heal, kind of like what's Apple has, kind of like, Ulu, like, a side cube that could have Apple's Insight 3 effect, I think it is, something that heals off of, or, heals off of like lost HP, something like that to help balance it. But like 15 to 20% is a little much. Having the shields last multiple turns, I think we'll see that with other shielder characters. Certain shielders like Ezra, And I'm only saying Ezra because I have seen him at his final form. If I could have his shield that lasts for multiple turns, content would be even easier because bosses don't hit you that hard all the time. There are some turns where it doesn't happen. I also saw someone in his comment section thinking that shields should stack. That would also be ridiculous because you could just spam 2 of these abilities and just never take damage. Like, you don't want to make the game too easy to where you're just shield stacking and it just becomes, too simple, right? But this is a topic that should be addressed. It is something that Blue Pox should hear. So like Jock has said, we don't really have a main way to talk about the shielder issue, but if enough of us got together and really talked about it, I think we could eventually see a change in shielders, possibly by a side cube. They don't have to, and I don't want it solved by just putting out a crazy shielder character that just trumps all the others. Just put out a simple side cube that can do it, or just rewrite how shielders behave, like he said, globally. I think that's a great idea, and I don't think it's a bad idea. But anyways, guys, let me know down in the comment section. Also, please make sure to support Jaka because this is originally his video, and I'm just also adding to it because I do think it's something that should be talked about. Anyways, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. You lucky gamers, have a good one. Lucky Lex out.